Hi friends, I'm Gio, and Bentley's helping me out this session, so if you hear any noises, well, Bentley is helping. This is the sequel. Chapter 1. We left Milwaukee at about 4 p.m. on Thursday. After a 4-hour layover in Paris, we arrived at Falcone Borsellino Airport, Cinisi, the main airport for Sicily. It was Friday, 4:30 p.m., local time. Travel time, 17 hours, 34 minutes. My body insisted it was 9:30 in the morning. We stepped out of the airport with only a light carry-on each. I'd been expecting winter. That's what we left behind in Milwaukee. But Sicily greeted us with something entirely different. The sky was the bluest I'd ever seen, stretching as far as I could look. The ocean wasn't the dull gray I'd seen in pictures, but a brilliant, impossible blue. The air smelled of salt. Gulls cried overhead as they played tag with something bright orange. Traffic roared around us. People shouted from car windows. Phones rang. Angry voices, laughing voices, crying voices. A whole baseball stadium's worth of Italians swirling together in one chaotic symphony. And the colors. Clothes in every shade imaginable. Not the muted tones back in Milwaukee, but vibrant greens, reds, yellows, a living mosaic. Perfume and cologne drifted on every breeze, mingling with the scent of fried meat and fresh ragu. Their jeans were different, not sloppy or baggy, but tailored. Blacks, blues, soft grays, slim cuts, sharp lines, fabric that moved like it had been chosen on purpose. They wore denim the way people back home wore slacks, not casual at all, but part of a whole look. Dimitri leaned close, smiling. First time overseas? His voice was deep and warm, as if just breathing the air of his home had revived him. I've been to Canada to see my grandparents, I said, but I've never seen an ocean, and I never imagined I'd fly to Italy. I promised to take you on a tour and make this the vacation you've dreamed of. It's not Mykonos, Dimitri said, and shrugged, but Sicily is home. First, we save my company. Second, I say thank you in the way Italians are famous. He looped his arm in mine and escorted me to a line of white cars with an illuminated taxi sign on the roof. I chuckled. Taxi is the same word in English as Italian. A lot of people wore hats. Some wore baseball caps, but most wore the kind you'd see on golf courses or in old movies. Cupola flat caps in leather or fabric. Some worn soft with age, others sharp and stylish. What is so special about Italian gratitude? I asked, drawing closer to Dimitri. My brother, Sergio, makes the best wine you've ever drank, and my nonna creates the best arancini you have ever tasted. Your mom, what does she make? I asked. Ragu, with meatballs slow simmered until the house smells like Christmas, Dimitri said. Before I could reply, Dimitri raised his arm and yelled, "Taxi!" Chapter 2. Point of note. Italian drivers keep one hand on the steering wheel and one hand free for gestures, usually the one next to the open window so they can gesture out of it. The radio is always on, and they are always talking to the passengers, to the car beside them, into a cell phone, or sometimes to nobody at all. And they talk fast. Do any other people on the planet talk as fast as they do? 0 to 60 words in less than 3 seconds. In the 40 minutes it took to reach Palermo and the offices of Anthropi Fashion, Dimitri must have absorbed every scrap of gossip, local news, and a genealogical library worth of names. I stared out the window at the ocean flashing between houses and hills. Blue sky with light clouds, an ocean that was aquamarine interspersed with a gray turquoise, showcased the beauty of the Bay of Palermo. In the other direction, short, scrubby hills were dotted with short olive green trees. The buildings were made of a beige-gray stone, planted with brilliant pinks and yellow flowers. There is no way to describe Italian traffic. The only rule I could see? Fast. Stopping seemed like a suggestion. Maybe not even that. Anthropi Fashion was housed in a warehouse with a view of the Tyrrhenian Sea. Large windows let in the light and ocean air. 3 palm trees stood next to the double-glass doors. The simple logo of Anthropi was embossed on the door. It stood on a small hill to the side of Palermo Bay, as if looking out to the future. The lights, which should have been on, were dark. There should have been the whirring of sewing machines, the clicking of needles, the occasional soft thud as fabric rolls hit the table. A lonely gull flew over, its solitary cry shrill in the stillness. Only one car sat in the parking lot. The taxi dropped us off, and I followed Dimitri to the glass doors. His steps slowed. His shoulders sagged. Anthropi Fashion had been his dream, his life's work. He told me on the flight over that he'd been planning this since art school, and then fashion school in Milan. He borrowed heavily from his parents and his uncle to make it work. Some weeks he spent more than 80 hours practically living here. A dream now balanced on the edge of a cliff. One wrong move, and everything he'd built could vanish. The anger I had once felt toward him faded away. Could I even comprehend what he must be feeling? Betrayal doesn't even cover it. I remember when my grandfather died. I was 10. It felt like my heart had turned into a hole. Everywhere I looked, I saw him, heard his voice, smelled his cologne. It broke me. Dimitri's hand reached for the door, keys shaking in his fingers. His reflection showed the desperation in his eyes. It must be worse for Dimitri. I stepped beside him and took his hand, and gently squeezed. His hand was cold. Would my warmth mean anything? His head turned, his eyes wet, and squeezed my hand back. I didn't let go. The irony hit me. Me, a $65,000 a year wage drone. Him, a millionaire fashion mogul. 2 completely different worlds. The strength in him seemed gone, the confidence shattered. He hadn't believed the betrayal had happened. Not until he saw the empty parking lot. It hit then, hard. His skin had paled. I'd have to be his strength. Maybe that's what he saw in me. Somehow, Dimitri saw in me something that could save his company. Ready to get to work? I asked. The widening of his eyes spoke his confusion. Log me in, I said, leaning in close to his ear. We've got product to ship. Chapter 3. I knew all about distribution and shipping routes, fees and taxes, but there was one critical problem. The files were in Italian. I was the only person in the office. 6 computer stations, one of which was Dimitri's. I sat at that one. Dimitri didn't have a traditional office, more like his personal design table. I reread Dad's latest text. Another reminder about my cousin's engagement party. Bring a +1. A subtle, yet not so subtle reminder that they wanted me to find someone and give them grandkids, even if they were adopted. Dad worked IT for Milwaukee Power and Light. I didn't have an international phone plan, so roaming charges would cost a mint. I dialed anyway. Dad picked up on the third ring. "It's His Royal Highness," Dad answered, using my old nickname. He knew I hated it, which was part of why he always teased me with it. "Ready for Saturday?" he asked. "About that," I stammered. "Can't make it. I'm helping a friend with a project." "Take a break. Bring him over." "Can't. We're in Palermo." "What are you doing in New York?" "Sicily, Dad. I need some help. The IT kind. I need the computers to talk to me in English." "No kidding? You're in Italy?" Dad said, and I imagined him running fingers through his thinning hair. "I'll walk you through it, and then you have some explaining to do. Find settings. In Italian, it's impostazione. Do you want me to spell it?" It took me 3 minutes, mostly because I had to reboot the computer. While we were waiting, I told Dad about Dimitri and Anthropi Fashion. Once booted, Dad and I chatted as I pulled up different shipping routes. "Watch out you don't get your heart broken," Dad said as we ended the call. "Italian men are known for playing it loose and casual. New lovers all the time." "That's just in the movies. Aren't people just people?" "Stereotypes come from somewhere. Just be careful." I had to hang up to concentrate. Though most everything was in English now, some documents were in Italian. I had to use an AI to translate. After 2 hours, Dimitri approached. "I've contacted everyone Salvatore poached. 4 in total. 3 designers and 1 manager. They all gave the same reason. They're sorry they left, but he offered a substantial pay raise, when I and my backers can't match. He didn't take any of the garment workers, only management." "He started Squisito here in Palermo?" I asked. "Salvatore is still here, but he dreams of making it in Milan." "Why take your people and not find his own? Did they hate you or something?" Dimitri stared at the dark computers as if remembering. "No, they were his friends, maybe. He wanted to hurt Anthropi, wanted to hurt me. I don't know." I leaned back in my chair and stretched my back. "How did he afford it?" "That, I'm still trying to figure it out. When he left, he took half the assets with him. Anthropi was just starting to make it big in Italy. That's why we decided to expand to American markets. How are you doing?" "I called my father to help me switch the systems to English. I can switch them back when I'm done." "How bad is it?" That's where I leaned back and stared at the ceiling. Somebody deleted critical client information, probably stole it and erased every trace. Dimitri glanced out the window, at the sun setting over the Bay of Palermo. "How long do you think Salvatore's been planning this?" I shrugged. "He stole your stuff, wiped your client database, and has enough cash to give massive pay raises." "Sono fregato," Dimitri muttered. My phone translated it as, "I'm ruined." Chapter 4. We left Anthropi Fashion about 8, took a taxi to his place, that is, the Parisi place. I always figured millionaires lived in a mansion. Not Dimitri. His parents lived in a 3-bedroom apartment. They slept in one room. Dimitri's brother, Sergio, and his fiancée slept in the second. Dimitri and Salvatore had slept in the third. That was when Salvatore was part of the family. When he left Dimitri, he also betrayed the family left behind. "I can get you a hotel, or you could sleep on the couch, or if it doesn't bother you, you can share the room with me. I promise to stay on my side of the bed," Dimitri said. "Your parents didn't mind you two living together?" "We'd been talking about a civil union," Dimitri said. "What happened?" Dimitri stepped out of the taxi. The driver released the trunk and we took our bags. A difference in philosophy, he replied. His tone was calm, but it quivered for a moment. I wanted to stay close to my family. Keep it a local, Sicilian business. As a group, Salvatore wanted to become a Milanese fashionista. You wanted classic and stable, while Salvatore wanted to chase the trends? I asked. Dimitri handed me my bag. That was his philosophy for life as well. He found my devotion to family tiresome. Grass is always greener, I replied. Dimitri frowned. Greener where? It's an American thing. Means people always think they'll be happier somewhere else. Ah, his shoulders sagged. We say something similar. The neighbor's grass is greener. In this case, I believe Salvatore was correct. A bald older man left the house, arms outstretched, followed by a middle-aged woman, her salt and pepper hair pulled into a neat bun. 2 dogs followed. Then came a younger man with a large mustache, and a woman I took to be his fiancée. That's my papa and my mama. The nice dog is Zeus, the mean one is Mars, and my brother Sergio and his fiancée Isabel. They helped me paint Anthropi, and my uncle installed the lights. His mom wrapped me in a hug, speaking Italian, welcoming me to the family. I didn't understand a word. That didn't stop her. Or them. The apartment smelled of garlic and roasted tomatoes. They had prepared a feast featuring a Sicilian pizza. I'd never even heard of one. A fluffy, olive-rich bread formed the base, layered with pecorino, a sharp, salty cheese made from sheep's milk. They spread an anchovy-infused sauce over the cheese, then added a light scattering of breadcrumbs. Slow-cooked sweet onions blanketed the top, finished with a delicate flourish of prosciutto. After dinner, the men went into the living room. The TV blared soccer, but no one watched. I gathered Dimitri told his family all that had happened. I found the family Wi-Fi. Dimitri told me the passcode and I logged in. With the contact information, I logged into his account for Anthropi and continued looking over his accounts. Chapter 5. I woke the next morning, sleeping on their couch. Sharing a bed with Dimitri seemed wrong, even though I really wanted to. But the crick in my neck made me wonder if I'd made the right decision. It was 6 a.m. I stretched and rolled off the couch, landing on Mars. He growled. I mumbled sorry. What's the Italian word for sorry, anyway? I bumbled around, sharing the bathroom with Sergio, then with Dimitri as I got ready. An older home. They only had one bathroom. Dressed in a t-shirt and shorts, I joined the family for breakfast. Cornetto filled with Irish strawberry jam, served with blood oranges and espresso so dark it rivaled ink. I laughed. His mom looked at me, then asked Demetrio something in Italian. Dimitri tore a bit of cornetto, a kind of bread, and ate it before asking, Mama wants to know what's so funny. It's dumb, I replied, trying not to blush. The coffee reminded me of ink, and the ink reminded me of a squid, and a squid reminded me of squisito, because they sound the same. I don't even know what a squisito is, so I think it's just a weird creature. Dimitri translated. His dad humped and mumbled something. Dimitri quickly said, Squisito means exquisite, but Papa thinks you're right. Salvatore has as much spine as a jellyfish. We took Dimitri's car, a silvery blue Fiat Tipo with moonroof. We rendezvoused with his 2 remaining staff, a short spitfire of a woman called Shelley, and a computer artist named Tommaso, with as many tattoos on his bare arms as I've seen in my entire life. Dimitri gave each a hug and spoke to them in Italian. I looked out the window, and when he introduced me, I greeted them with hugs and did the most American thing I could do, though I didn't know it at the time. Why didn't Salvatore take you two? Make it a clean sweep of the company. Tommaso frowned, and in English hinting of Italian said, Some of us built Anthropi from the beginning. It's our sweat, our blood, our life. Salvatore is a Madonna-cursed pig. Celli placed a hand on his shoulder. Anthropi means as much to us as it does to Dimitri. They did something to the computers and I can't log in. Can you help us? Tommaso folded his arms and met my eyes. American boy, we know why we are here. I have a family to feed. Celli is supporting her mama. This is Dimitri's company. Why are you here? Dimitri turned slightly, leaning into here. I shrugged. I wasn't getting paid. Boss let me use vacation. So why was I here? I gave the sarcastic answer because I wasn't ready for the truth. Dimitri stood me up the other night. He owes me a nice dinner. I'm tagging along until I collect. Dimitri raised an eyebrow. Tommaso muttered, Sono gli ormoni. Celli snorted. Americans make no sense. Time to get to business. How did it turn out that I was the one giving orders? Quickly, I said, to make this work, I'll need to see hard copies of the shipping manifests. From there, I can rebuild the basics. I turned to Dimitri. Does your phone have an international plan? Of course, he responded. I can call my dad to help you access your systems. Chapter 6. I'd been rebuilding their shipping and client database for 12 hours. My back ached. I was pretty sure I was seeing double. Jet lag is not your friend. Dimitri had been on the phone with a local nonna who knew people, trying to get staff. Celli had called a couple of designer friends. Tommaso worked with my dad and got their computer systems breathing again. I'd fallen asleep at Dimitri's console when an annoying trill woke me. My phone. I checked the caller ID. I didn't recognize the number, and it definitely wasn't anything from Wisconsin. So I answered. Pronto, Hugh. I understand you're doing some consulting work, the male voice said on the other end. I answered, This is the weirdest spam number I've ever seen. Is this Pakistan? No, wait, Angola. Hanging up now. You don't want to do that. Yes, I do. Bye. I ended the call. The same number called again. Celli looked up. Chiamata spam? Persistent little rodent, I said, ignoring it. It rang every minute. Same number. I answered it on the 5th try. Pronto, Hugh. I have a proposition. I'm placing you on speaker because I have a lot of work. You don't want to do that. I did it anyway. Dimitri and Tommaso looked over. I'd like to make you an offer you can't resist. I'm listening, I said. An American consultant. Dimitri must be pretty desperate. How much is he paying you? Except for Dimitri, no one in Sicily had my number. Randall wouldn't give it out, nor my boss, nor my dad. How did you get this number? I asked, my heart suddenly chilling, a cold pressure settling under my ribs. Does it matter? The voice replied smoothly. 1,000 American dollars. 2,000? I looked at Celli and Tommaso and mouthed, Do you know him? Celli bit her lip. Tommaso looked away. Chapter 7. I didn't see the point of hiding the truth. I came because Dimitri asked me. Americans are known for their mercenary nature, the man said. How much, really? For a heartbeat, I remembered the way Dimitri's eyes looked, the blue of the oceans off Mykonos, and how stupidly easy it had been to fall for him. I wanted to run my fingers through his dark hair. He said my eyes looked like champagne. I knew my answer. Dimitri owes me a nice dinner, and I'm holding him to it. Why are you so interested? Come work for me. Starting bonus of $5,000 American. I rolled my eyes. Tempting, but hard pass. Why? I leaned over the phone, relaxing a little. You make a bad first impression. Trust me, I know about such things. Having you as a boss would be a nightmare. A tapping sound came through the phone, like Salvatore was drumming his fingers. He paused and then replied, Your answer is no? My answer is hell no, you mother. Dimitri stepped beside me, taking my hand and responding in his warm voice. Pronto, Salvatore. To what do we owe the pleasure? You mean that's the guy who named his company Jellyfish? I blurted. Squisito, not Medusa, Salvatore said, his tone darkening. At least Medusa is classy. Squisito simply sounds like a squished squid flopping on the sand. As if I hadn't learned my lesson last time I attempted sound effects. I made little flopping noises and flapped my hands like a helpless squid. Halfway through, I realized I looked like a malfunctioning inflatable tube man, but it was too late to stop. Dimitri snickered. Celli and Tommaso looked at me as if I were insane. Salvatore muttered stolte and hung up. Rude, I muttered. Did he just call me stupid? In Latin? Seriously, I only told him what his stupid company sounded like in English. Grazie, amico mio, Dimitri said, his tone gentle, but he suppressed a smile. I definitely owe you a feast. That's the man you were going to marry? Or do you say enter a civil union with? I asked. Dimitri took a steadying breath. We were partners in both business and love. About 6 months ago, it fell apart. I think it started much earlier, Celli said. At least a year, maybe more. Why does he hate you? I asked. Did you sleep with his brother or something? Tommaso chuckled. Even worse. Dimitri disagreed with Salvatore il Magnifico. You'll have to explain that, I said. Dimitri took the seat beside me. Salvatore and I always disagreed about the direction for our company. He wanted to be bold and experimental. I wanted tradition, clothes that were timeless and would sell. It became a weekly fight, not just about our company, but about our lives. We had just had a very successful showing at Paris Fashion Week. Turned out, my design sold more than triple his. He couldn't handle that? I asked. We made a fortune, but only from Dimitri's ideas. Celli sat on the table, swinging her legs. Salvatore comes from old money, and he has a well-respected family. He was supposed to do better. Tommaso pulled up a chair and sat in it. He had already laid the groundwork for Squisito, without saying a word, had buyers and everything. The Milan designer Vittorio was funding him. So, I said, when Dimitri is finally out of the country, Salvatore strikes, lures the staff and designers away with huge paychecks, takes the client information on his way out the door, and probably steals all your crayons just to be petty. And it's all because people like Dimitri's ideas better? What is Salvatore, 12? Dimitri knows what people like, and it isn't dresses lined with hula hoops and LED lights, Celli said. I looked at Dimitri's hypnotic eyes. Something bothers me, I said. Give me your phone. Once again, I called Dad. Hey, Eunice! Dad responded. Dad, Salvatore got my number. Only Dimitri has it. Ideas? Dad asked me a couple of questions before his chair squeaked. Sounds like Salvatore left you a present. He must have planted spyware somewhere in your network. If one device is compromised, it could sync your contacts or mirrored your messages. Wouldn't take much for him to peek out of every computer with a camera. Tommaso, do you know what to do? How do you Americans say it? Like mustard on a hot dog. Shelley hopped off the table, her boots clicking on the tile. So, your ex-fiancé / business partner / evil octopus hacked us. That's fun. Tommaso rubbed his temples. I will clean the network, but first I need espresso, or holy water. Dimitri still held my hand, thumb brushing my knuckles like he'd forgotten he was doing it. I am sorry, Hugh. You should not have been dragged into this. Dragged? I said. Dimitri, I practically swan-dived into this mess, and besides, I gestured at the dead phone, you owe me dinner, and I aim to collect. Don't make it squid or octopus. Hate those. A tired smile tugged at Dimitri's mouth, but it didn't reach his eyes. You help me out of this, and I will wine and dine you like you've never been wined and dined before. Shelley crossed her arms. God, why do men always get ahead of themselves? Salvatore left us in a mess. Focus on that. Romance later. I looked between the three of them. Right. Someone explain to me why a man who designs dresses with hula hoops and LED lights is suddenly the Sicilian Bond villain of the fashion world. Dimitri let out a breath that sounded like it had been waiting months to escape. Because he cannot stand losing, especially to me. Chapter 8. Tommaso spent all day Sunday cleaning the computers and mainframes. Salvatore had installed his spybot deep inside the system, and it had spread through every networked device. I rebuilt the client database from old invoices and used a few insider tricks to streamline both incoming supplies and outgoing product. It would take the next week to double-check everything and make sure it all worked. Around 6 that evening, Tommaso announced, Finito! As he plugged in the router. All systems were back online. Between Shelley and Dimitri, they'd found 2 graduates, one from the Mediterranean School of Art and Design's fashion program, the other from the University of Palermo. Both could start within the week. 2 of the 4 positions filled. Dimitri took me for a drive through the hills around Palermo. The weather was mild, perfect for short sleeves. With the moonroof open on the Tipo, we headed deeper into Sicily. We cruised along the highway, and Dimitri said, Palermo lies on the northwestern coast of Sicily and sits inside a giant valley, the Conca dell'Oro, the Golden Shell. Hills and mountains protect it. We're heading to a little town about 12 kilometers away, Monreale. What's there? I asked. My nonna lives there, Dimitri said, smiling. She makes the best food you've ever eaten. Monreale perched on its hill, the cathedral rising over the piazza like a guardian of the town. How does such a small place rate a cathedral? I asked. Dimitri drove with one hand and held mine with the other. It's famous, he said. Built in the 12th century, it has royal tombs, kings and queens, and the largest collection of Byzantine mosaics in Italy. So it's almost 900 years old? I murmured. He laughed softly. Americans think a building becomes historic when it hits 50. In Italy, most structures have already survived 5 centuries before anyone even notices them. We wound through the narrow streets and stopped just beyond the town. His nonna lived in a small farmhouse that looked as if electricity and running water had been installed only a decade ago. Made of the same stone as nearly every building in Sicily, It overlooked long, straight rows of grapevines. "Your nonna owns a vineyard?" I asked. "The tenuta zagara," Dimitri said. "Technically, my nonno is in charge. My family has made wine for 5 generations. Sergio, my brother, is learning the business and will inherit someday." "What about you?" I asked. "Making wine? That isn't my dream." Dimitri led me inside the stone farmhouse. We were the last to arrive. 20 people were already there, glasses of red or white wine in hand. His parents were there, along with his brother and his sister-in-law, several relatives, and close family friends. Dimitri introduced me, and they all hugged me, no doubt sizing up the American. Homemade spaghetti, homemade ragu, meatballs, fresh pecorino cheese. The house smelled of garlic and grilled beef with an undercurrent of wine. It was good. Chapter 9. I stepped outside to get some air. My head was buzzing from the wine. Maybe Italians had a higher tolerance than us Westerners because they'd never stopped pouring. What kind of life was I living back in America? Here, family was everything. Vineyards, fashion, the air itself. None of it was anything like Milwaukee. Soon, I'd have to go back. Through the window, I spotted Dimitri laughing with his brother, glasses raised in a toast. I want to be part of this world. My phone rang. Expecting Dad, I answered. "Hey, Dad, you're on speaker. You've got to hear about what we've had for dinner." "I'm not your father," Salvatore said. "I hope this is a better opportunity to talk." My stomach tightened. "What do you want?" "I want to hire you." "I work in America," I said. "For a measly $65,000 a year," he replied. "You're worth so much more." I stared up at the night sky, suddenly cold. "How do you know that?" Salvatore paused, milking the moment. I might have laughed if it hadn't been so unsettling. "I know all about your boring job at Universal Shipping and the simple life you lead with what was your roommate's name, Randall?" His voice was soft, almost sweet. "I want to hire you and your evident capabilities for $75,000 a year, not including benefits and perks. My family has contacts. We can convert your travel visa into a work visa." I inhaled sharply, unsure what I was hearing. "Why? So you can get back at Dimitri?" "What has he offered you? A nice dinner?" Salvatore asked. "I can give you more, a lot more. Think about it. You'd live in Palermo while Squisito gains its footing, and when I move to Milan, you'll come with me." The practical guy took over. The one who wore frumpy shirts and glasses and boring ties. The one who knew better. "You're asking me to leave my family and start in a new land, living your dreams." It sounded like Salvatore drummed his fingers on a table. Did he do that whenever he was on the phone? I leaned against the wall. What are my dreams? I've never thought about that before. Do I dream of Italy? Never have. Do I dream of nice cars? Sometimes. Do you know what I dream of? Sal, can I call you Sal? Salvatore is really long. Salvatore stifled something. Annoyance, amusement, who knew? "Tell me, Hugh, what do you dream of? I can make it happen." I glanced inside. Nonna was bringing out an Italian cream cake covered with candied peach slices. Sergio was pouring more wine. Dimitri was laughing, head thrown back, eyes bright. And suddenly, I knew exactly what to say. Chapter 10. "Funny you should ask, Sal," I said. "I dream of 3 things. The first is having a nice romantic dinner with somebody special. It has to be the best. Okay, he said. Well, tonight I can cross that off my list. The second, he asked. Well, Sal, I like tall men. Italian, too, though I didn't know that until recently. And his eyes have to be the color of the seas off Mykonos, and he has to tell me that my eyes look like champagne. What color is that? He asked. Pale and pretty, Sal, my dear old friend, I said. And I don't know. It's a romantic color. What's the third? He asked, his voice suddenly very neutral. That, buddy old pal, is that I get to make goose noises at the guy who owns the Squished Squid Company. Let's cross that off my list right now. And then I let loose. Honk, 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 honk. A full chorus of honks. Loud ones, soft ones, croaking ones, obnoxious ones. Every time he tried to speak, I cut him off with another honk, honk, honk. Let's get serious, Salvatore tried to say. I answered with a dignified honk, 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 honk. I know it was rude, and I know I'm not the best adult in the room. But I like making sound effects. Besides, I've known Dimitri longer. And honestly, how could I work for a company that sounded like a squid? Salvatore ended the call, but not before muttering, You'll regret this. Such a cliché James Bond villain. Even Gustav Graves would be ashamed. Victory was mine. You know that feeling you get when you're not alone? That itch between the shoulder blades? I had it because Dimitri stood behind me. He heard me making explosion noises last week, flopping squid noises yesterday, and now honking geese. He'd know I was a geek for sure, or whatever the Italian word for that is. At the serious look on his face, I shrugged. What? I like to make noises. Nobody has ever stood up for me before. At least not like that, Dimitri said, stepping forward to embrace me. You make an adorable goose. Chapter 11. 2 days later, I sat at Dimitri's computer scrolling through the rebuilt database. It seemed to be working as programmed. Data funneled into the right places. Invoices were generated. Orders were received. Vendors had contacted us. And product was shipping once again. Or starting to. Their network was running clean. Tommaso hadn't stopped checking systems to make sure there weren't any other surprises. One of the new hires had already reported. The sewers were back at work. Everything was running smoothly, relatively speaking. Chelly sat at one of the design tables, earbuds in, scrunching her face as she worked. Tommaso had gone outside for a smoke. Dimitri was on the phone, negotiating a deal. Life had gone back to normal. My job was done. All I needed to do was train my replacement. When they found him, or her. I wandered outside and stared at the Bay of Palermo. The ocean was grayer today, and so was the sky. A slim breeze blew across the water, colder than it had any right to be. I pulled my shirt tight. Old houses, old boats, modern hotels lined the harbor, with half a dozen piers jutting out. Was that the McDonald's Arches? It wasn't far. I set out to find it. I had gone maybe half a block when I heard footsteps behind me. Would you like some company? Dimitri said, drawing even with me. I took his hand and tucked his arm against me. Love some. I'm heading to McDonald's. Want to come? Let's get this right, Dimitri said. You travel 5,000 miles just to go to a restaurant that exists in your hometown? You can take the boy out of America, I said, shrugging. But you can't take America out of the boy, he finished, grinning. On a whim, I asked, Can a geeky guy with no fashion sense and a bad sense of timing kiss a fashion millionaire mogul on the streets of Palermo? His steps paused. Will there be weird noises? No promises, I said. I leaned over and, in the middle of a Palermo street with the bay behind us, I kissed him. As my lips met his, I realized how long I'd been wanting to do this. This was what made the trip worthwhile. A kiss. Not just any kiss. One of those that changes lives. I didn't want it to be one of those cheesy nightclub kisses, but something that carried gratitude, sincerity, and the hope that we could become something more, that I was more than a goofy wage slave. It was deep, the kind of kiss that stops time, the kind that makes people glance, then look away, the kind that embarrasses old women and makes young lovers jealous. Like that, I whispered, stepping back. Most guys don't stick around me. I'm too weird. I'm not super experienced. But I'd placed my hopes, my love, my hope being into that one kiss. I hoped I hadn't crossed a line. His eyebrows lowered, and his lips took on that gentle, pouty look. Dimitri didn't say anything, so I took his hand and led him toward McDonald's. I crossed the line. Chapter 12. We ordered things we don't have in America. Crispy McBacon wraps, Parmesan chunks, fries drowned in creamy Italian cheese. Dimitri hadn't said much since the kiss, except to order. Should I apologize? Thank you for the trip? Stay silent? I want to thank you for the trip. This has been the best vacation I've ever had, I said. Dimitri glanced up. A half-smile tugged at his lips. I've never imagined going to Italy, ever. And Sicily? It's a great place. You have a wonderful family. I couldn't shake the feeling that I had said something wrong, or done something. The kiss was the likely culprit. Dimitri looked at the fries, took one, and ate it. He licked the cheese sauce off his fingers. I waited until he reached for another cheesy fry. I grabbed the one beside it and twirled it in the sauce until it was fully coated. Sorry about the kiss. I know it was inappropriate, I said, holding up the fry and watching the cheese drip off. I guess I could blame fate or the heat of the moment, but the truth is, I've wanted to do that since we first met at the diner. I know I'm just a glorified wage drone making 65 grand, nowhere near your league. Forgive me, please? Dimitri leaned forward, listening. I fell into those Mykonos eyes, deep blue with a hint of turquoise. Not literally falling into them, but my soul did, sucked straight into the maelstrom of those beautiful depths. I must be in Italy, because suddenly I'm thinking in poetry. He laid his hand on mine. Warm, steady. His eyes danced with light. The air smelled of Parmesan and beef. He looked into my eyes and said, I've decided who will take your place. Chapter 13. Listening like an aardvark, I replied. He or she had better be familiar with computer systems, shipping routes, international fees, and taxes. He is, Dimitri replied. Please, understand, you were never meant to be permanent. For some reason, that stung. I'd secretly hoped there could be something, but my feelings don't matter. This is about Dimitri and Anthropi Fashion, not about me. There could be no long-term relationship between us. I'll be leaving for America. He I hesitated, gaining control of my voice. He'll need to resist Salvatore's charms, be able to deal with people both internationally and locally, especially with those in the United States. Your business is expanding there, which could give you an avenue into Canada and Mexico. Agreed, Dimitri replied. It's someone who's proven I can trust him. Do you? Salvatore wants to be the top dog. I barked a couple of times to make my point, and he's willing to throw money around like used tissues. Agreed, Dimitri said. I was going to offer 115,000 euros a year, starting. Do you think that's enough? What kind of bonuses did you offer him? Housing allowance. He has to move a long ways, so I'm willing to cover that. Where's he coming from? America. Dimitri's Mykonos blue eyes held mine. I want you. I leaned back, shocked, but pleased. I'm flattered, but for that kind of money, you could do a lot better. You need someone who knows about fashion. I don't know anything about making clothes, and I flunked art. I'm only a wage drone. But you showed me something more important. There's nothing special about me, I said. You're honest. So's lots of people. You showed me that even if you screw up, you'll work to make it right. Not a lot of people will do that. I didn't know what to say to that. When I asked for help, you dropped everything, traveled around the world, 5,000 miles, and you didn't ask for anything in return. I tried to think of something funny to say, but came up with nothing. For 2 days, you and your father became the backbone of my company. We could have lost millions, lost clients, lost time, but you kept us afloat. Not because of money, but because you cared. I looked at the fries, picked one up covered in cheese. Consider it, please, he asked. Before I could reply, his phone rang. Dimitri, this is Chili. You need to get back here, quick. Chapter 14. Computers acting up again? Orders get jammed? I can get my dad on the line, I asked as we entered. Worse, Tommaso said. Conference call. His voice dropped in tone like he was referring to the devil himself. He flipped one of the monitors around. An older man I didn't recognize was on the other end. An office surrounded him, sleek, glass, minimalist. Chelly inhaled. That's a Tom Ford bespoke suit. Tommaso straightened his t-shirt, whispering to me, That's the man Salvatore was trying to impress, owner of Vittorio in Milan. The one who wanted Salvatore's family name, Chelly added. Should I make elephant noises? I replied. I'm pretty good at those. Dimitri stood a little taller and stepped in front of all of us and said, Lorenzo Vittorio, you're looking well. It's not like you to make social calls. Lorenzo's mouth hinted of a smile. This is not a social call. I'm a little disappointed. Did Salvatore steal your crayons too? I piped in. Wait, aren't you the guy funding him? Does that mean you paid Salvatore to steal Dimitri's crayons? Is this your American consultant? He asked, his voice hinting at annoyance. Get to the point, Dimitri said, his voice warm, but something in his tone chilled me. Very well, Lorenzo Vittorio said. Salvatore gave me the impression that he was the artist behind your inspiration. If you like hula hoops and LED lights, Chelly said in the background. His ideas do not suit the image I am projecting, Lorenzo Vittorio said. Yours do. Always pays for squirrels to check their nuts. Never knows what's stored in those tree trunks, I cheerfully added. I believe you are the designer who would fit into the future of my company. Not Salvatore. Not Squisito. I walked over to Dimitri and took his hand. It was cold. I squeezed it lightly to let him know he wasn't alone. I'm not abandoning my company, Dimitri said, his tone low. We've worked too hard to make Anthropi Fashion successful. These people are my family. Can't I offer anything to tempt you or your people to work for me? Sure, I blurted out, before anyone else could. How do you kiss? What? Is it better than this? I leaned over, wrapped my arms around Dimitri, and kissed him, in front of everyone. It was a long kiss, the kind measured by an egg timer. God, I loved kissing this man. For good measure, I made exaggerated kissing sounds. When we broke apart, I whispered, I love Italy. When do I start? Chapter 15. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Not Tommaso, not Celle, not even Lorenzo Vittorio, who froze mid-breath on the monitor like someone had hit pause on a very expensive movie. Dimitri's hand tightened around mine, not pulling away, not shocked, but grounding himself like he needed the contact to stay upright. On the screen, Lorenzo blinked once, slowly. I see, he said, voice smooth as polished marble. That answers my question. What question? I asked, wiping my mouth with the back of my hand because I was nothing if not classy. Whether loyalty can be bought, Lorenzo replied. It appears it cannot. Dimitri found his voice again. Hugh? But Lorenzo cut in, leaning forward in his sleek Milanese office. You have something Salvatore does not. Fashion sense, I offered. Competence, Celle added. Morals, Tommaso said. Animal noises, I suggested. Self-control, Celle countered. Enough, Dimitri said, but there was a tremor of laughter under it. Lorenzo steepled his fingers. You have loyalty, and loyalty is the rarest currency in this industry. Dimitri straightened. I told you, I'm not leaving Anthropi. I am no longer asking you to, Lorenzo said. I am asking to work with you. That shut us all up, even me. He continued. Salvatore misrepresented himself. He claimed your designs were his. He claimed your staff were his. He claimed your success was his. I do not invest in liars. Celle muttered. Well, that's his whole personality gone. Lorenzo ignored her. I want a partnership. Vittorio and Anthropi, Milan and Palermo, tradition and innovation. Dimitri's breath caught. You're serious? Very. I squeezed his hand again. This time, he squeezed back. Lorenzo's gaze flicked to me. And the American? I lifted my chin. That's me, the American. Are you staying? Lorenzo asked. I looked at Dimitri. His eyes were wide, hopeful, terrified, beautiful. Mykonos blue. I think, I said slowly, that depends on the job offer. Dimitri swallowed. It's yours, if you want it. And the kissing benefits, I asked? Tommaso groaned. Celle snorted. Lorenzo raised an eyebrow like he was reconsidering every life choice that led him to this moment. Dimitri's voice was quiet, but steady. Those are negotiable. I grinned. Then yes, I'm staying. Lorenzo nodded once, satisfied. Good. Then let us begin. The call ended. The screen went black. Silence settled over the room. Thick, electric, full of everything we weren't saying yet. Then Celli whispered, "Holy crap!" Tommaso crossed himself twice. Dimitri turned to me, eyes shining with something I couldn't name yet. "Hugh?" "Yes," I said. "You kissed me in front of Lorenzo Vittorio." "And loved it?" "And my staff." "And I don't regret it." "And possibly half the warehouse." "I hope so." He exhaled, half laughed, half disbelief. "Why?" I stepped closer, still holding his hand. "Because you have eyes the same color as the oceans of Mykonos, and because I'm tired of pretending I don't want you." His breath hitched. "Hugh." "Also," I added, "because if I didn't do something dramatic, Salvatore would have won." That earned a real laugh. Warm, relieved, beautiful. He pulled me into his arms, forehead resting against mine. "You're impossible." "Probably why I can't keep a boyfriend," I admitted. "And reckless." "And I make animal noises," I said. "And perfect," he said. My heart did something dangerous. "I try." He kissed me again, softer this time, slower, like the world wasn't ending, just beginning. "Do you think we can go to Mykonos someday?" I asked. But that's a story for another time. Thank you, my friends, for requesting the sequel. I appreciate it. It was fun finishing up with these characters. Me and Bentley want to say thank you. I love you all, my friends. Until next time, peace.